identify the problem, you definitely want to try and see if you've found one of these bugs or eggs on a plant, or you've seen it and you've seen the damage that it does, like the cabbage loopers when you find certain sorts of holes in your goods. The grasshoppers we have here, which you will also see like entire leaf margins just sheared off because they've been eating in your beds. So the first thing to do is to identify it and then monitor population levels, meaning how much damage are you seeing, how often is it occurring. And then the other thing you have to do is make a decision for yourself, how much damage is acceptable. And I allow a certain amount of damage in my home garden as well when it comes to things like cabbage loopers, grasshoppers, the birds eating some tomatoes here and there. As long as it's not something that's going to destroy your crop, basically, or as long as you're still going to produce something that is what you're growing for, meaning it's still appropriate to its use when you finish, don't worry about. And sometimes one of your options is using no control at all, meaning, well, this is going to run its course, or this plant is at the end of its growing season and I'm going to yank the plant out, versus using something broad spectrum or trying to treat a problem which is going to be short-lived based on what you know about the life cycle of that insect. Example are aphids. You're seeing a lot of aphid activity now, and we've had aphids here for, I would say, the last month. And that's simply because the things that aphids are attracted to are typically a lot of brassicas, and that's what we plant here in the fall because it's cool enough for them to develop properly. So it is time to yank the brassicas. Removing dead and old plant material. If a plant gets infested, yank the plant out, versus waiting and saying, oh, I don't know if it's going to make it. Pull it. That way it doesn't have a chance to transmit that problem and have those pests multiply and attack your healthier plants. The other thing you want to make sure that you do when we talk about cultural control, because of this arid climate and our temperatures are going to be wicked hot this summer, is you must keep your plants healthy. And the number one key to that is watering. You have to water probably every day here, depending on how you plant. But when you first plant seeds, most certainly plant every day, or water, your bed every day until your seedlings come up, and gradually back off a little bit on the watering. You can go to every other day, but I use pumice at home, which does two things. It adds both drainage and water retention because it has a whole lot of surface area per volume, but it keeps the soil light enough for my plants so that they survive the summer. Because the things that you're going to get down to here, and by July, I want to say June, July, August, the things that'll be in your beds will be things like eggplant, okra, maybe some chili peppers with shade. What won't be in your bed are things like lettuces. Your tomatoes may have died by that time as well, depending on what our temperatures look like. You hear about people using aphids, things to control aphids like ladybugs, lacewings, etc. That's a biological control. The other things you can do are attracting things to your garden and leaving them alone that will also control for your bugs. Not doing things to deter lizards, for example, and birds. Some birds are beneficial in your garden. The vagrant chickens from next door, not beneficials because they'll eat your plants. But this is a garden where we do not use inorganic pesticides. That is a big no-no because we not only have a beehive here, but all of Melissa's crops here and the ones that you're going to be growing during the summer are dependent on pollinators of extension, and ask them if they've seen anything, because all people across the state call the cooperative extension. So if there's a problem developing, it helps that they have more data versus less data. Gardening is an inexact science, but it is a science at the end of the day, and that the data is out there usually. And what helps you tremendously to develop as gardeners is to keep records and to see what's working and what's not working. Turn your beds, prepare them adequately, prepare them well with enough organic material. Make sure that you're planting closer, especially in the summertime, versus planting rows in your beds, because you're not going to step into your beds to cultivate them. So the purpose of rows typically is to be able to do that. You alert everybody here at the garden so that they also can look for squash bugs in their plantings, but you hand pick them, which may give some people the ickies or they may get squicked out, but you can always put gloves on to do this. But that's usually what I do, is hand pick them and drop them into either soapy water or squash them, depending on how big they are. At the beginning of the squash bug season, get in there, pick them out of your squash, look for them around the corners of your beds, look for them under the leaves, and also you'll find that sometimes when you water, if you're watering with one of these buckets, your plants are established, when you hit the base of that plant with a bucket or two of cold water, the squash bugs will run upwards out of the wetness. So you may see them either on the tops of the leaves or in the center of your plant, and that's an ideal time to grab them.
Incorporated all of that because it makes me realize that the garden is a culture, all the different plants. And when you said planting them closer to keep the water, but then the bugs can transfer between, it just really helped me understand how to manage the whole garden a little bit.
Melissa planted her squash super early, you know, and she was trying to do that to get crops in before they make their appearance. And they'll probably be here in May in abundance after we get back. They're here already, but she also will tell you in the integrated pest management way, they have the assassin bugs. And there are bugs that will kill. They're eating the squash bugs. And so she had them out there last year. So they just showed up. That's the culture, right? The environment. Nature knows what to do.